Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fifth round of the Simsport Racing International GT3 Season 4 here from Donington Park in the United Kingdom. We take a quick trip across the North Sea, almost perfectly west from the dunes of Zandvoort, to one of the most iconic venues in British motorsport history. At just over 4 kilometres in length, the Grand Prix layout packs plenty of character challenge and elevation change into its relatively short lap, with the plummet down the Craner curves and through the old hairpin difficult for drivers of all levels of experience and speed. Tonight, off the back of the highly successful SSRI Spa 24 Hours Against Cancer, we can expect drivers to switch off from fuel stints in the long game and instead focus on getting their elbows out. Well, to guide you through the action, I'm Tim Fulbert, your lead commentator, and I'm delighted to be joined for the first time for GT3 action in the regular season, of course, by SSRI's very own Chris Hill. Chris, thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing? And your thoughts on what was an incredible weekend for the community?
It was an incredible, and good evening to yourself, sir. It was an incredible event over the weekend, raising... we haven't got the actual final figure yet, but we think we're near the €13,000 mark for the charity against cancer. But the event, we believe we've not really had any negative comments from the drivers. A few suggestions which we'll take on board. We're going to send a feedback form out for everybody to fill in. Considering what Kunos did to us by scaring us, it was a successful weekend. Did you catch any of the stream, Tim?
I did, very much so. I did. I managed to catch the end, most importantly, to make sure who had made it to the end and who had crossed the line, take the checkered flag. But I dropped in and out whilst being flung on roller coasters in Paris. But a great race, and obviously the community all coming together to take part in what really was a landmark event for the communities as they join. Of course, SSRI and Simsport Racing coming together, and that was the first real big event for the two together. But the GT3 season so far has been a closely fought one. We've seen some thrilling action. Really, the cherry on the cake provided last time out at Zandvoort, where a wet to slightly dry race saw Rhys Spence Rob leave his mandatory stop as late as he possibly could to snatch the race lead away from Sem Spenkelink in the final couple of laps, with Mattis Marquez stealing the final spot on the podium. Hello to everyone who'll be watching along. Do let us know who you're cheering on this evening, your thoughts on the race. Of course, if you do enjoy what you see tonight, please hit the like button and subscribe to SSRI to keep up to date with all the sim racing action here at this community. So the qualifying session is taking place. There's about 10 minutes to go, so we'll head over to live pictures of the GT3 machinery thundering round the Donington Park circuit. 9 minutes and 32 seconds remaining on the clock. Clyde Bainey, the fastest at the moment. He's got 0.04 of a second over Rhys Spence Rob, Zandvoort race winner. Then it's Nard Cox in third in the number 35 McLaren on the screen at the moment. Then it's Dimitri de Knoit in the 114 Bentley ahead of Sem Spenkelink, Dave Jr., Andreas Garland, Jitse Medina, Danny de Swart and Mattis Marquez rounding out your top 10. Klaas Vester 11th ahead of Mike Alpenhoser, Cohen Scepter, Niebauer and Chris Vickers your top 15. Now drivers are out on track. They've got a couple of laps under their belts, a few of them pulling off and returning to the pit lane to manage to get a new set of tyres on and get out and potentially better their time. Track conditions are optimum at the moment. Temperature is 21 degrees on the track surface, 15 ambient, so it's not the hottest conditions we've seen, but that's to be expected this time of day and of course this time of year here at Donington Park. Nard Cox setting a new pole position time, 1:26.560, the fastest we've seen so far this qualifying session. Tim Niebauer on screen now in the 6.22, heading towards the S's, this left-right chicane, which can take plenty of curb on both sides, but that is a hot spot for track limits warnings. Too many of those. Find yourself driving down pit lane with a penalty to serve. Important to note, we've got a 75-minute race ahead of us. Drivers will be required to make one mandatory stop. Not for tyres though, it's only for fuel. Of course, in a race like we saw last time out with changing conditions, if they do want to take tyres, they can, but the rules state they only need to take fuel. And a couple of drivers emerging from pit lane, back on track, but none of them getting in the way of Tim Niebauer there. And Chris, it's difficult in qualifying, isn't it? With so many cars out on track, with some warming up and some slowing down and some on their hot laps. It's all about finding the space out there.
Yeah, it's such a short circuit as well. It's going to be interesting to see. The pit lane feeds out virtually into the first corner here, so we're hoping that there's not going to be any incidents with people leaving the pits and people starting their first hot lap. But fingers crossed, everything will go all right and everybody does find the space. But if you look at the track there on the right hand side, you can see pretty much everybody's bunched around the same area.
The real problem is, as well, like you say, for that first corner down at Redgate, it's not so much that the pit lane feeds in, it's that actually when your drivers on hot laps are charging down towards that first corner, they run over the green and white chevron section, don't they, and actually run over the pit exit to try and open up the first corner at Redgate as much as possible. So it's always the two lines of traffic coming together into that one pinch point. Here's Sam Spenkling then in the Dark Sky Racing McLaren, currently 5th, 3/10 off pole position as it stands. Quite phenomenally, the first two rows are all separated by a little over half a tenth of a second. Yep, that's 0.055 of a second between Nard Cox in first place and Reece Spence Robin 4th. So it's very close as always in the GT3 competition. Just over 6 minutes to go as Sam Spenkling comes towards the line. Will he improve his time? Doesn't look like he did, but he could just be setting up for another hot lap. Mattis Marquez crosses the line, betters his time to go to 8th place. It looks like the McLarens are looking strong this evening at Donington Park, currently occupying positions 1, 2, 5 and 8, all inside the top 10. Spenkling through the fast right hand of the old hairpin. Chris, this is a track that doesn't present many escape routes, does it? The grass is there, the gravel's there, it's fairly old school, and tip one all over the curve too far, as Seb nearly does there. You find yourself vacating the racetrack very quickly.
Yeah, I did a few practice laps around here last night just to try and get used to it myself, because I should have been in the event, but with what happened the weekend and the 24 hours, I've just not had enough time to do any decent level of practice, and I didn't want to cause obstructions. But what I did notice is if you go off slightly over the curve here, you start losing tyre pressure quite quickly, and I'm not sure if that's anything to do with the new update or it's just a characteristic of Donington track in ACC. Have you come across that before?
Well, the tyre pressures are very sensitive, aren't they, in ACC, and it's not something you want to start messing around with. I have noticed that you clobber the curbs a bit too hard and a bit too often, you can see that tyre pressure just disappear away from you. And worst case scenario, you find yourself picking up a puncture. Now, there are certain parts of the track where you do need to use the curbs, so it's the fastest way around. So we see Cohen Scepter coming up towards the right-hander here at, I think this is McLean's or Coppice, yeah, through McLean's and then up towards Coppice. You can see that on the entry, apex and exit of the corner, he's all the way out to the curb and using as much of the red and white rumble strip as he can. Just so I say that, he decides to avoid the curb on the exit there, but particularly through the SS here, look, his right-hand wheels over the curb, all four wheels practically over the curbs through the left and the right, and then once again the left-hand side tyres are running along the red and white strip on the left-hand side. And so the tyre pressures are going to be a problem here tonight because you're going to be using the curbs. It's simple as that. So Scepter round the right-hander at the Melbourne hairpin, up over the crest and towards the final left-hander at Goddard's, currently in P13, 2/10 up on his fastest time. If we can cross the line with that time in hand, we could see him leap into the top 10. Let's see, the BMW does indeed go to P9, a 1:27.455, puts him just under 9/10 of a second off Nard Cox's provisional pole time, with Danny de Sport in the CBSR Racing Mercedes number 57 a few tenths up on his time as well. So drivers are finding pace in the final 3 minutes of this qualifying session. Into the SSN, throw the car in through the left and the right, use as much curb as you can without invalidating your lap time, And then brace yourself for the final 2 corners. A switchback of hairpins into the right-hander at the Melbourne hairpin, braking downhill, and then you accelerate and climb uphill. Very difficult to get the power down in the exit of the right-hander. Then brake into what is almost a blind apex and such a long corner that you often take 2 or 3 stabs at finding the eventual apex. Around the final corner, onto the start-finish straight. Daniel Sport crosses the line to improve, but he stays P9 in that number 57 car. With Nard Cox, as you can see, cutting the corner. No Coppice, 2 wheels kicking up the dust. He's got 10ths in hand as well on his best time, so he's 1 minute 26.5. He's going quicker now as well to potentially just set him above as well. He clobbers the curve on the right-hand side of the S's and spins to the inside, and he's off to the grass. Gathers it up and gets back on the racing surface, but he's going to need to back out of it as the traffic arrives at the Melbourne hairpin. But all that time that Cox had in the pocket has just gone away from him. With Spenkling, his teammate, also finding time. He's got a 10th in hand. That can see him close the gap to Reece Spence Rob, but potentially won't see him gain any positions. No, he's lost time there in the final corner, so didn't improve on his time. 1 minute 28 seconds to go. You'll need to be out on track now if you want to set the time to get round back to the timing line and kickstart your lap. Xander Vale on screen in the 808 Mode 11 Aston Martin. He's got about a second in hand. 1.2 seconds off pole position at the moment, but he's got a second over his best, our timing screens are showing. Let's see how he gets on then. Up over the crest and into the right-hander at Coppice. Everything looking fairly in control now as he thunders over the little crest there where there used to be the Dunlop Bridge, but that was removed a fair few years ago. Down into the S's through the left and the right. Again, looking in control, not making the mistake that Nard Cox did through the chicane. Down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Let's see where Vale will go. He's 17th at the moment. Has he kept a hold of that advantage over his best times? He climbs the crest towards Goddard's, hits the brakes, and spit of flames from the side of the 808 Vantage. Goes into the final left-hander and applies the throttle very cleanly indeed. Crosses the line, 17th, and he doesn't improve, so he must have lost time in that final sector. Indeed. We go to another Aston Martin here. Zandvoort race winner Reece Spence Rob heads into the final corner. Up on his time as he comes through the left-hander. He only needs to find less than 1/10 of a second, less than half a tenth of a second, and he'll go pole. But he doesn't on his final attempt. He crosses the line, stays P4, and phenomenally, Dimitri de Canoit has jumped up to P3. The number 114 Bentley setting the exact same time as Reece Spence Rob's Aston Martin to snatch 3rd place. So the top 4 are separated still by less than half a tenth of a second. A fantastic qualifying here at Donington Park. Mattis Marquech on your screen in the number 20 heads up towards McLean's through the right-hander. Things looking fairly clean as he then climbs up through over the crest, almost blind into Coppice, and cuts the inside of the corner there, kicking up the dust, potentially invalidating his lap. But he's still got a 10th up. He's really ebbing and flowing on the delta to his best time. Comes up towards the S's. This will be his final attempt to improve, but he cuts over the right-hand side, and I get the feeling that invalidated his lap as he pulls over to the right-hand side. There's a spun Jaguar to the inside, just for good measure as well. Cohen Scepter rounds the final corner. He's got a 10th in hand, crosses the line, and he does improve a 1:27.325. I think that jumped him up a position right at the death there. So, qualifying, Chris, as close as ever. Top 4 drivers separated by less than 1/10 of a second. Nard Cox, Clyde Bainey and Dimitri de Canoit with Reece Spence Rob in 4th place. We're in for one hell of a race if they're that close across the 75 minutes.
That was astounding to watch, really. The 3rd and 4th place setting exactly the same time by the looks of it. Unless I'm reading the timing wrong, which invariably does happen. I am a bit silly at times. But yeah, first corner into Redgate and down through Hollywood, Craner Curves and into Old Hairpin. It's going to be, they're all going to be bunched up. I think we're going to see several cars to the side of the circuit. I hate to be disrespectful, but it's going to happen. There's going to be door banging and all sorts.
Well, there is a little bit of room to go side by side, but very quickly it files down into single file, doesn't it, through the Craner curves and down into the old hairpin, which is often where we see the drama on these first laps. But with the field so close, it's unfortunately a likely outcome with everyone jostling for position in this opening tour of the circuit. 1 hour 15 minutes on the clock as we take a look at the grid. I'll give you the rundown of the order. It's Nard Cox starting on pole position alongside Clyde Bainey in the number 85. It's a McLaren 1-2. Then it's Dimitri Knoit's 114 Bentley alongside Reece Spence Robb in the 48 Aston Martin. Then it's Sem Spenkelink in P5. He heads the third row alongside Dave Jr. in the number 10, the red and black Lamborghini on the right-hand side of your screen there. Then it's Andreas Garlin in the number 188 Mad Goetze Racing Aston Martin. He'll be looking for a turn of form after a number of incidents across the first 4 races this season. Really have seen him fail to bag the results he deserves. Then alongside him it's Mattis Marquez in the number 20 McLaren 720S. Then it's Danny de Swart in the purple, white and black Mercedes, actually in P10. He was beaten at the death by his teammate Cohen Scepter in the number 32, the 2 CBSR cars rounding out your top 10. Then it's Klaas Bester in the number 90 Ferrari alongside Tim Niebau's number 622 Mercedes. They're then followed by the highest place, the Red Rocket Racing Machines. That is Jitse Medema in the number 36 Ferrari alongside Nelson Abranhoser in the 33 Aston Martin. Then it's Mike Abranhoser in the number 21 McLaren ahead of Chris Vickers and Xander Vale. As we get back towards P18, Aaron van Druenen's number 24 Mercedes alongside Yannick Valenduk in the 301 Honda NSX. And then it's Tim Krul, Van der Kraan, Joris Eveliens and Dimitri de Keyser running out your top 23 positions on the grid. That number 15 Lexus there on the left-hand side of your screen. As the cars now drop off the jacks, they are getting ready to go. There's Patrick Treffers on the right-hand side of your screen in that bright green Nissan GTR. That's been at the heart of the action across this season. I've certainly seen Godzilla getting involved. Then we've got Dennis Berkman. You can see the grey Aston Martin, the 444, alongside Evan Atafas in the Wild Things Racing Nissan. It was a good weekend for Wild Things Racing. They take the overall victory in the Spa 24 Hours with SSRI. The team driving an Aston Martin that weekend, taking a fantastic victory, a very dominant one indeed. Drivers heading out on the warm-up lap, getting ready to take the green flag. They roll around this undulating Donington Park circuit and down through the Craner curves. And Chris, this is really a pinch point, isn't it? Because, like we say, not only is it difficult to run side by side through here when you're battling on the first lap, it's also difficult to get through there on your own anyway when you're driving flat out.
Yeah, and the tyres, they're hoping to get warm on the parade lap, but it doesn't always work. They'll be trying to warm up as best as possible, as well as the brakes, for that first braking point at Redgate. And as you say, it does sort of funnel into a single file to try and get through the Craner curves, and then there'll be some, I would say midfield. I don't think the top 3 or 4 will get in the way of each other, but you never know, do you? You really don't know what's in store. But all I can say is I think we're going to be in for a real treat.
Well, it shows you just how many cars we've got out here on the grid tonight, because as Nard Cox was leading the field up towards Coppice, the cars at the back of the grid had only just departed the old hairpin Johan Planis here in the number 81 at the back of the grid. So 30 cars on the just over 4 kilometre circuit here at Donington Park, and look at that view down Starkey Straight. So many GT3 cars packed into one camera shot, packed into one event. You're going to have a spectacular race to enjoy, really worth sticking around for, and really another chapter in what's been a thrilling season so far. Now the grid line up into the 2 rows of cars. It's going to be 15 rows of GT3 racing machinery set to take the green flag any second now. Nard Cox will lead them round the final corner at Goddard's.
This is the time just before that where I call it the hurry up music, because all of a sudden, for some reason, ACC, everybody speeds off. But I'll let you talk properly as the start of the race.
Well, things are about to speed up very quickly indeed. Nard Cox rounds the final corner, then he's on the inside as they'll head down towards the first corner at Redgate. Let's see how they get on. 1 hour 15 on the clock, waiting for the green flag, and there it flies. Cox gets away well, very clean start, but he is challenged side by side with Clyde Bainey as they head into the first corner at Redgate. Towards the middle of the grid, it looks fairly clean indeed as they run side by side through the right-hander. No major casualties so far as they thunder through the Craner curves for the first time. Knoit holds on to third place as they fly through the left-hander and towards the old hairpin, but Nard Cox has got the whole shot and he's ahead, crucially, as they run up under the old Starkey's Bridge. It's no longer there, but the corner still has the name, and up towards McLean's. It looks like we can't see any dust flying in the background, so it looks like everyone's managed to stay on the grey stuff and keep together. Cox leads Barney to Knoit, Reece Spence Rob as they fly through the shot there. Sem Spankling in P5 with Dave Jr. 6, Andreas Garlin holding on to P7, Matters Markech, Cohen Scepter and Danny de Swart rounding out your top 10. So it looks like everything's remained fairly stable as Dave Jr. looks to the inside of Sem Spankling into the S's, but opts to back out of it, live to fight another day. There's 1 hour 13 minutes and 54 seconds still on the clock as they come towards the Melbourne hairpin for the first time of asking. One of these points where the elastic between the cars, the accordion effect as the drivers hit the brake and hit the gas. You can see the field come together, and you can see rather innocuous incidents taking place in the penultimate corner as they come across the line after the first lap. It's Cox, leads Bainey to Knoit, Reece Spence, Rob, Sem Spankling, Dave Jr. and Andreas Garlin here on your screen as the Aston Martin looks for a way past the Lamborghini in towards Redgate. Then it's Cohen Scepter and Danny de Swart ahead of Klaas Vester, and Matthias Markech now has climbed up to 11th. Someone potentially has dropped down the order, which is elevating a few of those cars further inside the top 10 as they come through the old hairpin for the second time. A huge plume of dust there kicked up by Sem Spankling's McLaren running wide on the exit of the fast right-hander. But Chris, a clean start, which is not only crucial for these drivers in terms of not having to carry damage, it's crucial for us to enjoy a full grid of cars racing around. But 1 hour 12 minutes to go. There's a long race ahead.
Yeah, no, I think I've just obviously been proven wrong.
Sorry, Chris. Dimitri de Knoit, I think, spinning to the inside there on the exit of Coppice. He was skipping across the grass, manages to get back on track as Sem Spankling takes out one of the tyre bundles at the S's. A mistake, though, from the Bentley driver has seen him drop 2 or 3 positions as into the Melbourne hairpin. Nard Cox goes deep, attempting to defend from Clyde Bainey, who gets the cutback in the Odyssey racing car up over the crest and into Goddard's. Nard Cox closes across the front of his rival, closes the door indeed as they go through the final corner. All of that has allowed Reece Spence Rob to close up. Now, just as we were saying, Chris, there's a long race to go. They're fighting like it's the final lap.
Yes, there's still 1 hour and 10 minutes of this race to go, and as we were talking in qualifying, you can see people there going into the pit lane to open up the corner to try and get a good drive and possibly an overtaking manoeuvre into Redgate. But I think the next passing point is Old Hairpin. Is that fair to say? You've got to be brave though. You've got to be you've got to have the good run.
Brave, crazy, one or the other, or a bit of both, I think, to make a pass into the Old Hairpin. But yeah, you definitely need that run down through the Craner curves and into the very fast right-hander. Spence Rob, currently the fastest man out on the track. He's now stuck up behind Clyde Bainey. He's looking himself for a way past race lead. In fact, the Aston Martin is rather distracting the McLaren as Andreas Garlin looks for a way past Dave Jr. into the S's. Such a quick chicane though, it's another difficult place to really affect a pass. We've got to try and set it up for here in the Melbourne hairpin if you want to make that move and make it stick. So come up to completely third lap here at Donington Park. Dimitri de Knoit now down in 5th place after that mistake through the S's, and Sem Spankling running very wide through the final corner of Goddard's. Nearly allows the Bentley up the inside, but he's able to almost run a NASCAR high line there around the left-hander and apply the throttle nice and early. And scamper away and keep that P4. Cox has just started to put a couple of car lengths between himself and his McLaren rival Barney, who's in second place now, 7/10 across the line. It's just kind of ebbing and flowing now as the race begins to settle down, but Spenklik makes another mistake there. De Kooijt was flying through the old hairpin. They are side by side through Starkey's Bridge and up towards the right-hander at McLean's. Can De Kooijt get up the inside? No. Spenklik sweeps around the outside and holds on to that P4, but you get the feeling that he's struggling in these opening laps, Chris. He's made a couple of mistakes there. Wonder if that tyre pressure problem is playing in.
Quite possibly. It's unusual to see Sam make so. I'm choosing my words carefully. I want to say so many mistakes, but they're only little minor flaws, shall we say. But it's allowing Dimitri to get good runs on him, and I'm going to show up about overtaking because I've not got one right yet.
Well, behind then, Andreas Garlin and Dave Jr. are exchanging blows as they come into the final corner of Goddard's, but Garlin has now finally made the move stick as he goes up the inside of the hairpin. He's got P6 now. He's gained a position off the start, but close in behind Dave Jr. There is co-incepted Danny de Sport as well as Mattis Marquette, so P6 all the way down to P10 and really nose to tail. In fact, the 114 Bentley of De Kooijt looking for a way past Spenklik. They're all holding each other up and backing the train up as around the outside at Starkey's Bridge, Clyde Bainey, if he could hold on to this, it'll be the inside into McLean's and he'll take the race lead from Nard Cox. The two McLarens side by side. Nearly opens the door for Spence Robb into the right-hander, but no, the race lead has changed. Clyde Bainey snatches P1 away from Nard Cox as Benjamin Simmers runs wide on the exit of the old hairpin. Around the outside goes Joris Everleens, but change for the lead there. It was Clyde Bainey wrestles P1 away from Nard Cox, who's actually now lost out 2 corners later. Spence Robb takes P2 away from the number 35 McLaren, the pole sitter, as we run through the S's and towards the Melbourne hairpin. So Bainey will now want to put that pace down. He's been hustling the back of the McLaren for long enough, and now it's time to show it. As Dave Jr. spinning there on the exit of the Melbourne hairpin, that holds up Cohen Scepter and allows Danny de Swart to escape the traffic around the outside and gain a couple of positions and all that. Exactly what I mentioned on the opening lap. It's one of those innocuous places. You don't think there's enough of a challenge there. It's not too difficult a corner if you look at a track map. Lo and behold, there's a place to spin and get caught up in some sort of drama. So change for the order then after the first 5 laps. Barney, Lee, Spence, Robb and Cox, your podium positions. You've got 2.3 seconds, 2.5 seconds now over Spenklik, the number 1 McLaren. There's McLaren 720S's in positions 1, 3 and 4 as Andreas Garlin decides to dispose of one of the floppy markers that marks where the apex points are around this Donington Park circuit. Then it's De Kooijt in 5. Garland, De Swart, Marquette Jr. and Scepter, your top 10. Obviously Scepter dropping back a couple of spots owing to that mistake at the Melbourne hairpin. Now here is De Kooijt. He's got a good opportunity now, a great run out of Coppice and down towards the S's side by side with Spenkling into the left and right. No, he's again unable to make the move stick. He's trying to set up a run though from Melbourne hairpin. It looks like he's done exactly that as he dives to the inside, hammers down the brakes of the gearbox, and it looks like he'll have the move done. Yes, he does. By being offline, Spenkling now actually has the inside line into Goddard's. De Kooijt's going to be wanting to close the door though. They are still side by side as they come through the final left-hander, and all of this battling is really allowing Andreas Garlin to close up in the 188 Aston Martin. So 4th, 5th and 6th are nose to tail as they cross the line and head down towards Redgate. Feeling that De Kooijt needs to set up the move a couple corners in advance, which he so nearly did there into the Melbourne hairpin. He got the run out of Coppice, he had a good run through the S's and so nearly able to get the job done on the brakes into the Melbourne hairpin as they now go through the old hairpin and start climbing the hill towards the plains. jump down the order here is Johan Planner side by side with Damien De Keyser's number 15 Lexus as they fly through the Craner curves and into the old hairpin. It's anything but a hairpin as Planner runs wide there and skips through the grass. It's exactly what we were saying, wasn't it, Chris? It's so easy just to run out wide here at Donington Park and find yourself using all that time and all that momentum and a couple of positions with it.
Yeah, and looking from the camera views that we're fortunate to see here, I think I now understand why people are losing tyre pressure. There's some grids on the outside of the curb, and one just ran over those as he went off circuit. But going back to this battle with Dimitri and Sem's not going to make it easy for Dimitri to get past. He's going to defend this position. His life depends on it. But let's see. It's very good to watch. And there, obviously, Andres is in the background waiting to pounce should the two come to blows.
Absolutely. And actually, on the exit of Goddard, Spenkling having a half spin on the final corner really nearly opened the door for that move from Dimitri there. But yeah, like we saw with Reece Spence, Rob making his way past Nard Cox as well, following through Clyde Bailey. Sometimes you just need someone to open the door. So here's Cohen Scepter then in front of Tim Neubauer's Mercedes into the left-hander. Oh, and he did two wheels on the right-hand side on the way into the S's. And that's just sent the BMW M6 spinning round and tumbling down the order. He's now down, I believe. I can't even see his name on the timing tower there, so he's dropped right to the back of the running field. P27 from inside the top 10, a disastrous mistake there for Cohen Scepter inside the first 12 minutes of racing here. He's behind Mattis Marquez, makes a dive up the inside of Danny Swart and gets the job done. Doesn't even open the door for Dave Jr., who's looking for a way through as well with the number 10 Lamborghini. Marquez up to P8. He's got a gap to close though. I believe it's around 2 seconds. 2.4 seconds at the back of Andreas Garland. So we're seeing these battle packs start to form. We've got the top 2 and 3 were fairly close, but they're starting to stretch out now. Then it's this battle here on screen, 4th, 5th and 6th nose to tail. Then 7th, 8th and 9th are all together on the screen. As a couple of drivers are heading to the pit lane. Van Drunen in the pits from P17. I wonder if that's a strategy call or whether he's picked up damage at some point in the race so far and has opted to dive to pit lane and repair it. As in the timing tower as well, in absence of Dennis Berkman, the number 24 Aston Martin, who on the track map on the right hand side is a long way off the back of the field. So I wonder if there's been any drama there or again a strategy choice. So the drivers will need to pit just the once during this race. A mandatory stop is required. You can see on the left hand side of your screen a little box with a 1 next to it. If you pit, that box goes green and you've got the job done. You don't need to head to pit lane once again. Knoit again looks for a way past Sem Spenkling into the Melbourne hairpin. Can't get the job done. Sure as hell going to keep trying, Chris. That seems to be the place where he wants to make the move.
He does, but I think Sem's wise to it now, so I think he needs to rethink his strategy of where he's going to make the move. Where do you think are other places that could be used as overtaking on here? You can't do it into the S's. May be able to do it out of the S's if somebody has a bad pass through there. Coppice down the Darky Straight?
Potentially, yes, but I think really Dimitri's best option might be to force a big error from Sem Spenkling. You know, we've seen a couple of these mistakes, a slide here, an understeering moment there, as actually it looks like the move has been done and drama befalling as well, because Andreas Garlin has snuck through on the inside of Sem Spenkling through Coppice. So very much so, Dimitri de Knoit's got the job done, but opened the door for the 188 Aston Martin, who's also snuck through Spenkling from 4th down to 6th in the space of 2 or 3 corners. Just as we say, Dimitri was struggling to get the job done. tells us to shut up and gets the pass made, and it's now up to P4.
Where did he do it?
Here we go. Looks like a replay. Up towards McLean's. It looks like Sem Spenkling made a mistake there. He ran wide. He's able to just sneak through, and then on the run up over the crest and into Coppice, Andreas Garlin sneaks through on the brakes. Job done. So
I got one right then.
You got one right.
Coppice, yeah. Just not the right one.
Yeah. You said Coppice, and I said a mistake. So I think together we got 50, half a point each on that one.
Yeah.
As now Deloitte's got a 5.6 second gap, 5.4 second gap. Actually, to close down to the podium spots. Nard Cox in P3 at the moment. Reece Spence robbed those, only 6/10 of a second off our race leader Clive Bainey. Further down the order, Simon Pike, Dynamic Motorsports, Aston Martin battling side by side with Van der Kraan there as they go through Redgate. Ferrari cheering on. No bias at all from Chris as they head down the hill.
Not as my teammate or anything, no, absolutely no bias.
As Van der Kraan gets a huge slide on the exit of the old hairpin, and Pike slides up the inside. Doesn't look like there's any contact between the two of them. What a move from the number 13 Aston Martin. He gets the job done. Bit of a slide through McLean's though. He holds on to P17 for now. All this battling is allowing that bright green Nissan GTR. Patrick Treffers to close in. I'd say Medina as well. The 36 Ferrari looking feisty as closing in on this battle. A string of cars in this second half of the grid, separated by only a few tenths or a second here and there. As is so often the case, the midfield and lower half of the grid can be very close, if not closer than the fight for the podium. 4 cars on the screen, all fighting through the Melbourne hairpin. Now Mike Abramhoser looking for a way past Klaas Vester on the run down in towards Redgate. As we discussed, the Ferrari there, all 4 wheels off the track and into the pit lane on the run through the first corner, trying to open up the right hand that starts the lap as they fly down through the crane of curves. Plenty of cones or floppy markers littering the track now as drivers have really explored the track limits. As now Patrick Treffers is under fire from the demon behind. Go to the front of the grid here. Now this is the battle for the race lead. Clive Baining's fastest man on track in that number 85 McLaren, but he hasn't got it all his own way at the moment. Reece Spence Rob's number 48 Aston Martin has closed right in over the past 2 laps. The gap, although written down as 2/10, is virtually nothing as they come up towards Goddard's into the final left-hander. The duo started to pull a bit of a gap over Nard Cox, 1.9 seconds back to the McLaren. One mistake, maybe poorly timed move from Reece. We'll see that lead evaporate in an instant. So Martin Van der Kraan out. He's been passed by Pike, but now he's under pressure from Patrick Treffers behind. To the right hand of Melbourne hairpin. Medina now looking for a way around the outside. It's going to be difficult to do that. Crest and towards Goddard's. Difficult pair of hairpins to round out the lap. Chris, sometimes it's not about making the move, it's not about sending one up the inside, it's often just about sitting under that rear wing. If you've got a bright green car like Patrick Treffers has here, you're going to force that driver to be racing looking in the mirror, which is not optimal at all as Simon Pike runs slightly wide on the exit of Redgate.
So did Yitzy then as well, as you were saying that. He ran a bit wide, and that allowed Patrick to catch right up. So we were riding on board, but looking back onto Yitzy then, weren't we? Sorry, but I'm getting myself all confused here.
Patrick Treffers.
I'm not. Yeah.
Put a defensive move on though to hold on to the position, but yeah, look, sometimes it's not about making the pass, is it? It's not about sending it up the inside on the brakes. Sometimes you just got to be there in the mirrors and force that error from the driver in front.
Yeah, and capitalise on it. Force the error, get through, try and pull away. Sometimes, some people pulp to do that on a regular basis. I didn't get my nickname Jedi Hill for no reason. I didn't force people into errors. They just happened to happen in front of me.
Well, someone who could use some of your force powers at the moment would certainly be Simon Pike, your teammate, who's made a little mistake there on the second half of the lap and actually allowed Van der Kraan to close up as Medema opts to check out of this battle and head to pit lane to make his mandatory stop with 55 minutes to go. It'll be interesting to see then how his race plays out in terms of the battle with Pike, Van der Kraan and Treffers. They're all together on the track, but now the strategy is going to see them split, and as is so often the case with sports car racing, they'll all come flying back together just as the checkered flag waves. As a mistake from Van der Kraan there through the old hairpin has allowed Treffers around the outside as they run up through Starkey's Bridge and in towards McLean's. Inside, that bright green Nissan gets the job done. I think there was a car spun off to the inside. Yes, that looked like the number 13. I think your teammate Chris has made a mistake there on the exit of McLean's. Is off to the inside and in the wall. Here's a mistake though from the number 147 McLaren. Oh, a big hit into the left-hand side wall on the exit of the S's, bumping over the curbs.
That's not going to buff out, is it?
Not going to buff out, no. Chris Vickers left facing the wrong way and left with a very dented front end of that McLaren 720S. He's dropped right down the order. He's in pit lane at the moment. I wonder if he'll be returning to the race with damage sustained to the front end.
Mike's dropped down to 23rd as well. So yes, you do see him at the side. Well, catch him going right at the side of the road.
I did think it was an Aston Martin, but it was a little bit too camouflaged against the green grass here at Donington Park. I don't think you guys did that deliberately with delivery, but up over the crest at Coppice, Mattis Marquez now looking to put a move on Sem Spenkeling, who was challenging for the podium positions earlier on, but now seems to have slipped backwards right into this battle pack. There's traffic ahead as well. You can look on the right hand side of your screen and see the track map. Plenty of cars over to this final sector of the lap to run through the S's, Melbourne, Hairpin and Goddard's. Ferrari gets out of the way. I believe that's Inse Medema, who pitted early, but unfortunately has found himself now with blue flags being waved. He moves over to the right hand side of the track off the racing line as best he can. Cars thunder on through, but Spenkeling doesn't look to be having the best of evenings at the moment at Donington Park. And he's slipping back down the order. Here's Tim Krolt going around the outside of a recovering I was going to say Simon Pike, but it's not.
It's Evelyn's.
I was going to say these guys are actually battling for position. There's 3 Aston Martins and 1 Lamborghini all trying to exchange the fight for the same part of Donington Park's real estate. Is to the inside there. The bright red machine heads to pit lane. I believe that was Mike. No, not Mike. My bad. I'll get a correction on that as we cut now to Mattis Marquez, who's been looking for a way past Sem Spenkeling, but now dropped off the back. For number 1 McLaren. He's come over the crest and into Coppice. This is now a crucial part of the race when will drivers start to make their stops, head to pit lane and opt to play a different strategy card potentially to their rivals. Now in this situation here, Chris, Reece Spence, Robbie's closed up to Clyde Bainey. Do you take the risk of potentially coming out of pit lane into traffic, to avoid having to make the pass, or do you think that Reece should sit out underneath the rear wing of Bainey and hopefully force an error?
Well, to be honest, I've never been in this luxurious position as Reece has been, or is right now. But we saw at Zandvoort he stayed out and just did a splash and dash right at the end, winning the race. Yeah, sorry, I was trying to figure out what. That's Damien De Keyser, isn't it?
Yeah, just skipping through the gravel there.
Yeah.
Yes, it's try and make that strategy work again, I guess.
But now I know they're both teammates for the Odyssey racing team, so I would have thought they both know each other's strategy. But sometimes it's not a team event, so to speak. This series, it is a single single event for single drivers. Obviously, some may be married, I don't know. So they might not be playing the team game at all. They might not give each other setups. They might be ultra competitive. Our team, we do try and share the setups as much as possible. Talk to each other during the race, encourage each other. But when you're at the front of the grid, you could be winning the championship. You don't know. You might keep secrets. I mean, we've seen it in the past with Formula 1 drivers, haven't we? Where they don't pass on their setups or their knowledge of tracks.
It looks like Spenkling's actually lost another position now, down to P7. Mattis Marquez has got the job done on this lap of Donington Park. Like Bainey still holds on to that race lead, but Reece Spence Rob in tow. Spenkling's evening though is continuing to get worse as he's now dropped from out inside the top 5, from P5 now down to P7 after, well, really at the start it looked like he could be fighting for a podium spot. As he comes down the crane of curves, 49.5 minutes to go here at Donington Park. It's still cloudy. It doesn't look like we're going to be getting any inclement weather in this remaining 49 minutes of the race, which would be something I'm sure the drivers would be happy to see after the deluge that he had at Zandvoort. There's another mistake there from Spenkling through Coppice, through McLean's and up the hill into Coppice, and almost allowed Danny de Swart's Mercedes through into the right-hander. He's certainly struggling with something, is we are used to seeing that McLaren fighting it out further up the field. Here we go then into the right-hander at the Melbourne hairpin. This is a replay of how Mattis Marquez got the job done, and on the exit there, Spenkling looked slow. I don't know whether he let Mattis through there, or whether he was having some sort of issue applying the throttle on the exit of the right-hander, but that wasn't quite an eventful pass into the left-hander at Goddard's. Very easily done, well before the braking zone for Marquez.
I wonder if he's struggling with tyre pressures. It just seems strange to see Sam not as not being disrespectful, not as competitive as he normally is. So he must be battling some sort of demon with that car.
It's symptomatic of it, isn't it? He's had a couple of hairy oversteer moments. He's had a couple of understeery moments where he's run off wide, and he's had a couple of these errors that are just costing him some time. But it's all during the corner. It's nothing to do with he's slow under the brakes or he's losing time in a straight line. It's all little incidents here and there that are just beginning to add up and cost him time. He's now down in P7. So yeah, I would agree with you, Chris. I wonder if he is struggling with that. The difficulty is though, if it's a setup problem, you can't change that. If it's a tyre set problem, the only way to sort that out is come to pit lane. But then you take the risk of getting it even more incorrect, I suppose. If you take a stab on pressures, it might make the problem worse. So the only way is if it's a driving problem, as in you're using the curbs, etc. That then you've got to stay off those critical points, say at the S's and on the exit of the old hairpin, and as you lose time. So it's a big issue to have tyres, isn't it?
It is, and if you on this platform, if you go into the pits, it's a 30-second stop for just changing your tyres. Fuel is a time of whatever fuel load you put in. So some people that might run long and do a splash and dash at the end might only have a 5-second pit stop, actually stopped in the box. People who have pitted early might have a lot longer. People that stopped in the middle, well, they'll be midfield. Not midfield, that's the wrong word, isn't it? What's the word I'm looking for, Tim?
Something like median.
Thank you.
In the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. Thank you very much. It's been a long day at work.
Absolutely well. Reece Spence Rob, driver who we know can throw the alternate strategy around and make it work. I wonder if he'll be going as long into this race as he did at Zandvoort, hitting inside the final 2 minutes, emerging victor. Despite the closing speed of Spenkling in the final couple of laps, he was able to hold on and take his first podium and race victory in the SSRI community, and he was very happy to be on that top step of the virtual podium when we spoke to him post-race. One thing we did learn from that, which you mentioned earlier, Chris, is that he was explaining how he was speaking with his teammate Clark Bainey as they went through the race as to what the best strategy was to do. Now, wonder if that communications channel is quiet as they're battling for the race lead with 45 minutes to go. Wonder who's going to be wearing their poker face tonight here at Donington Park. So with 45 minutes to go, really we're starting to head towards the middle of the race, potential pit stop window opening, whether drivers are going to split the race in two equal halves, whether they're going to hold on that little bit longer and hope for a shorter stop at the end. Jitse Medina running wide there on the exit of the old hairpin, kicking up the dust. A number of cars have pitted. Dennis Workman, Cohen Scepter, Benjamin Simmers, Jitse Medina, Nelson Abranhoser, Simon Pike, Chris Vickers have all pitted. Vickers unfortunately looks to have been retired from the race following that spin and collision with the barrier on the exit of the S's about 10 minutes ago. As the field now will head into, I believe this will be over 10 laps now, towards 15 or so.
Oh, I told you it won't buff out, didn't I? That's why he's in the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. Not cheap, the front end of those McLaren 720Ss.
Oh.
So, as Medina heads up over the crest, he's looking for a way past Simmers. We're going to get a replay here. This is Chris Vickers pulling off to the side of the track, calling it a night. It's a very unhappy looking McLaren. Unfortunately, it sounds like the driver inside is not happy with how his race has gone this evening, and you can actually see in the back of the shot there his parked McLaren in the pit lane, opting to dive out of the action here tonight and come back stronger next time. As heading down through the Craner curves, Jitse Medina's looking for a way past Benjamin Simmers. These two Ferraris are nose to tail. The majority of the grid, really, top 22 positions still yet to pit, so drivers are looking potentially to make their stop as short as possible, take as little fuel on board as they need, go as long into the race as they can.
This is Chris Vickers' teammate, Mark Abranhoser. So at least he's carried on going.
Plenty of McLarens out on the track tonight. Here's the battle for the race lead. Banny and Spence Robb are still together, separated by under 0.2 of a second at the previous timing line, and as they cross the start-finish line, half a second between the number 85 McLaren and the number 48 Aston Martin. They've continued to gap Nard Cox. 2.9 seconds now is their lead over the third-placed man. To Kanoit P4 ahead of Andreas Garland, Mattis Marquez in P6, and Spengler, Gannon de Swart, Dave Jr. and Tim Niebauer rounding out your top 10. And, it looks like it's a McLaren circuit, this one, with 720Ss in first, second, sixth, seventh at the moment. So it looks like it's a track for the British mark. Looks like the top 7 is all British made. British brands at Donington Park, so home turf favouring the cars here. There's just to the inside, looking for a way past into the left and right at the S's. They come into the right hander again. Spence Robb looking to the inside at the Melbourne hairpin. That looks like Xander Vale's pulled off to the left-hand side as well, and he's diving out of the action. The number 808 Aston Martin off to the left-hand side on the run between the old hairpin and Goddard's. As the race leaders now start their 24th lap of Donington Park. Down towards Redgate, a spit of flames from the McLaren and the Aston Martins. They come flying through the right-hander at Redgate, through Hollywood then, flat out through this section as they'll then dive down into the natural valley here at Donington Park. And as the track flattens out, you have to hit the brakes and turn into the old hairpin. It's such a difficult corner to get right. So flat out near 90-degree right-hander as you apply the throttle as early as possible. So let's see what's happened here. Sandervale on your screen, slow on the exit of the old hair, and then seems to accelerate into the barrier. So very confusing one there.
Wonder if he's had hardware issues.
It would look that way, wouldn't it? As the way he slowed and then suddenly accelerated straight into the wall, head first, and then very quickly seems to have dropped out of the action. So a confusing one there for Vale. It's a slight mistake for Spence Robb through the SSC. Just drop off the back of Banny. Closes up right again though into the Melbourne hairpin. So come up in towards Gollards. To the left hander. Under 40 minutes now remaining in this race. So through the left. And yeah, it does look like I'm trying to spot on the track map, but I can't see Sandervale's number 808. So it would look like there's some sort of hardware issue there for the Aston Martin driver. Server, so some issue there, which is a shame to see. Almost the worst way to go out is when you've got some sort of issue and you've got all the practice and time in. As Sem Spenkling looks to have turned things around now, he's made a pass on Matters Marquez, who has retaken that 6th place off his fellow McLaren driver. And potentially things might start coming back the way of the number 1 car. So that's the point of the race. Let's run you through the order then. Clyde Bainey leads the way, but it's under a second to Reece Spence Robb. That's the battle on the screen at the moment as they're catching traffic. That's Dennis Berkman's Aston Martin, up the road. Then the back of shot there, that's Nard Cox. He holds on to the final podium spot as it stands ahead of Dimitri Knoit's 1-1 for Bentley. Andreas Garland P5. Let's have a look then at how Sem Spenkling reclaimed that P6. They're coming into Gollards here. He's looking to the inside. Marquez is wide there, very wide. It's just allowed, really opened the door for Sem. Goes up the inside and gets the job done as they apply the throttle down the start finish straight. Let's run down the rest of the order. It's Spenkling then up into P6, 8.8 seconds off the top 5. Then it's Marquez, De Swart, Junior, Niebauer, your top 10. With Vallender climbing the order to P11. It's Klaas Vester, Abrenhoser, Kroll, and Eveline to your top 15. Treffers, De Kaiser, Tafas, Van der Kraan, and Lenson round out your top 20. Those are all still yet to pit. Top 20 drivers yet to head to pit lane. And it is Dennis Berkman, the 444 Aston Martin, who's just up the road of this lead battle. The first of the drivers who have made their mandatory stop. Into the second half of the race, it's heating up indeed as Spence Robb makes a slight mistake there through McLean's, costing himself some time. And Coppice into the back straight with Starkeys. And here is a replay. Car 15, this is Damien De Kaiser down the hill into the old hairpin and under the brakes, loops it round, tries to gather it up. See him spin to the inside and the loop continues, and it's a spiral shape drawn on the track there from De Kaiser. Plenty of time lost, but Chris, so easy to do, and with the tyre problems that we've been alluding to, it's another factor that can play in so easily.
Yeah, and that was, I'll give him 8 out of 10 for the recovery there. Normally, when you go off the old hairpin, it does try and spear you into the barrier, so it recovered quite well. But yeah, it must be something to do with the tyres tonight, certainly here at Donington. I mean, the track's optimum. It's 16 degrees, so it's not like there's an issue with it's not rained, obviously. Track's not damp, it's not greasy, so it must be to do with the curbs that people are struggling with. As we see Joris here and battling with Tim Kroll. Probably got that wrong. He's probably just been overtaken by him, but you know, one day I'll get something right. Can I just say hello to everybody in the YouTube chat? Greetings. Yes, we do realise it. The poster did say Zandvoort. We were just testing to make sure everybody's observant. You've all passed the test. Well done. Anybody from Team 101 will buy you a pizza for your observations.
I really wonder if they'll ever get that pizza. That's been going for a long time. As Bainey continues on to lead, Spence Robb has closed right up though on this lap, tucked under the rear wing of that McLaren. They've cleared Dennis Berkman lap traffic there is that grey and green Aston Martin, as Valenduc and Joris Everleens have headed to pit lane to make their mandatory stop. And so we're seeing now stops start to take place as the cloud looks to have cleared slightly as well. So there's a nice golden tone now to the Donington Park circuit. On the right hand side of your screen, that is Valenduc returning to the racetrack from pit lane, but unfortunately he's picked up a stop go 30 seconds, so I can only assume that's for speeding in pit lane. Yes, and unfortunately a strategy that looks to have played out pretty well with where he's rejoined. Blows, but the pit stops are pretty clunky at times on ACC, aren't they, Chris? But and with that comes a heavy cost to pay if you get them wrong. It's certainly a skill in its own right, getting your stop set up and hitting your marks as you execute the pit stop.
Yeah, but again, we keep blaming the latest update, and I do believe that they have done something with the pit lane speed, because we've noticed on over the weekend there was quite a few people not complaining but observing that they were getting stop go penalties for not getting on the pit limiter quick enough when in the past they have. And people, when you're driving these cars, you get a good sense of what you're doing. You're doing the repetitive pit stops. You know when to hit your pit limiter and when to take it off. I think people are just being caught out with this update. I know Yannick's not driven in this series this year sometime. Sorry, this is his first race in the series this year because of his other commitments. As we see, Matheus Marques has got a drive-through as well, so that must be for track clubs.
I was going to say he's been pushing on in that battle with Sam Spenkler, so not only now has he's got to make his mandatory stop, he's then going to have to make another visit to pit lane to serve a drive-through penalty. As we head into this middle point of the race, into the second half, Marques will tumble down the order. It's been a very strong race so far for that number 20 McLaren, by far matching it, close to matching that podium finish from Zandvoort last time out. Positions off inside the top 5. As here is on board Flight Bane, we ride on the dash cam of McLaren, then we skip back to the dash of the Aston Martin. You can see just how close these two cars are in this battle for race lead, and ultimately breaks it through the right hand of the Melbourne hairpin, close up even more so in exchange of the paint as they come from the tight right hand and then into the left of God. As you can see, the corner just seems to go on forever. It's very hard to work out where you're meant to be going as the corner undulates, and you're really trying to work out what line is best. You see drivers trying to cut back line, apex late, and really apply the throttle to get a good run down the start finish, then straight into towards Redgate, flying downhill into the training curves through the left hand, brake and turn here into the right of the old hairpin, cobble curve on the inside and the outside. Interestingly enough, Bainey in front to stay off the rubber strips. I wonder if he's starting to gain concern regarding his tyres. Then up the hill into towards McLean's. Climb again into the blind apex of Coppers that you can't see the corner until the last second. Turn in before you get there. Hope the corner is where it was the lap before. As we're seeing now Dave Jr. pit, so a couple of drivers heading to pit lane from inside the top 10. There stops Dave Jr. from, I believe he was up in 8th place before he's made his stop. 31 minutes to go. The Lamborghini comes to pit road. This battle for the race lead is, I get the feeling, Chris, that it's going to continue this way for a long time. The only real factor that's going to change this will be either a mistake from either driver or when they decide to make their pit stops.
I don't know whether to comment or not because I don't want to ruin the race. But yeah, just before you said that, I was thinking that this could go on for a long while. They're showing each other respect. But I don't think Reese has got alongside yet, has he? Any stage. He's just been closing up, and he's not the type of driver that will do a dive bomb. We'll see one of my teammates at the side of spinning at the side of the road. It was, to be honest.
13. So
that's Simon. Yeah, he's having a bit of a nightmare of a race. I'll speak to him after and console him. Yeah, this is going to be out. But are the back markers going to assist Reese here? Do you think in possible pass?
It looks like the Jaguar was staying well out of the way. He's trying to adjust his line to slow down and potentially allow a move on the run up towards the S's, but gets well clear of the drivers as they, the battling drivers as they come towards the Melbourne hairpin. 31 machine steering well clear of the drama, not wanting to get involved at all. Now here is your teammate Chris, Simon Pike. Let's see what happens here into the old hairpin. It's another one of these spins, and really, right at the end there, looked like only one wheel touched the grass, that left rear, was just enough to spin round. So unfortunate instant there for Simon.
Yeah, one wheel and it's curtains, or any other type of household equipment you can think of. But yeah, it was similar to Damien's catching the wheel on the tyre as well, but went the opposite way. See, I'm sorry, I'll let you talk through the move.
I was just going to say, Matas Marquez fighting away here with Mike Abram-Hoser, the two McLaren side by side through the Melbourne hairpin, and Marquez running slightly wide through Goddard's. Oh, and he tried to come to pit lane. He tried to come to pit lane, but it was a call too late, and it's Medema, I believe. No, actually, Klaas Vestas, as he reverses on the track to come back into pit lane. I wonder if he was desperate to do that out of fuel or something, but very dangerous move. I think that's one of the big do-nots of racing, is reverse on the racing surface, but in desperation, Matas Marquez there reverses on the track and comes down pit lane, but made a mistake through Goddard's earlier. That's what allowed Seb Spenkling through. Then here he makes an exit error once again, and then tries to dive across to the inside to get down pit road, but nearly collects the Ferrari of Klaas Vester, who manages to continue on. I reckon he didn't have enough fuel to make it round the next lap. There is the McLaren on the right hand side of your screen, the bright white 720S trundling down pit lane. It's going to be coming back onto the racetrack. Plenty of time lost. Unfortunately, it goes from bad to worse to Marquez there in that situation. A very strange one there,
before. Never seen that before. No, I'm astounded. I'm actually astounded that that's happened. Oh, good lord!
Well, it's like he missed his turn off on the motorway there.
Yeah, but obviously there was a car going down his inside as well, so that stopped him. But he missed the pit lane anyway. But I think he was caught out on the curbing in the side of the track, wasn't he, just before he went in. So perhaps he was avoiding the spin and then just went a bit wide. But yeah, you can't reverse down the racetrack. It's an absolute no-go. I'll be surprised if the stewards don't look at that after the race.
I was going to say, very lucky that someone else didn't want to pit in that exact moment. Here we go, runs wide into Goddard's, two wheels on the grass, that slows him up, and a completely unsighted on the left-hand side as Klaas Vester is pretty much just avoiding the drama there and continuing on. Marquez then reverses, spins the car and gets into pit lane. Very strange one indeed, that. But I get the feeling that he was so caught up on trying to make sure the car didn't spin that he just was unable to see that Ferrari coming through. But in that situation, you've got to just continue on and make it round. You just lose more time by slowing up like that.
I wonder if he'll watch this stream back and pray that it's not been caught. We've not seen it.
Such a good race. Yeah. Such a good race for Matthews so far. It's a shame to see it seemingly come to crumble in that way. There's a number of other pit stops has taken place, including podium runner Dimitri Decoit's 114 Bentley. He's been up fighting in towards that top five in that number the 1-1 field machine. He's now dropped down the order, of course, as he's made his mandatory stop. Mike Abram-Hoser as well. Currently 9th and 10th, so they're the highest of our pit stoppers so far. And still, with 25.5 minutes to go, this battle for the race lead rages on between Banny and Spence Robb. They haven't changed positions so far. They have been nose to tail for the majority of the race. As they come around Goddards. And still, they stay out on track. So no one opting to head to pit lane. No one opting to try something very different yet. I wonder if that will change.
I'm just wondering if the team have actually left the tow rope on. Neither of them can go in the pits.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a McLaren still parked across pit entry and no one can get in.
Yeah, that's the one.
But no, it's very close indeed, still 7/10 of a second. And now this is, I suppose, if they're not talking, I'm sure they are still having a chat to some extent over their team radio, but it becomes a bit of a game now because they're lapping at very similar pace. There's no clear quicker driver. It's all going to come down to this pit stop. I wonder who's going to be blinking first and who's going to make the decision, because I think whoever does pit first is going to find themselves in traffic, lose the time, and then potentially lose the position. So the choice, the option here really, I think, is to go as long as you can and make that stop as short as possible in the hope that, and once other people have made their stops, there's some gaps on track, because looking on the right hand side of our screen at the moment, you get these clumps of cars, and very occasionally there's a gap looking down between the 81 and the 301 through the old hairpin. That Yannick Valenduk there, and the gap to the 81, which I think is it's a Medema. That gap potentially could fall into that. Then there's behind the 301 to the 21, there's a bit of a gap in there, so you're hoping to find one of these more open sections of track. Lose the time in traffic as Dave Jr. now is looking for a way past Evan Atafas, who's climbed up to 11th place, but albeit through not pitting, as Junior looks to the inside, two wheels on the grass, and gets collected by the Nissan, but unfortunately Dave Jr. was on his way to the scene of the accident long before the apex of the corner.
Never didn't stand a chance there, really, did he?
No, I was going to say a dive up the inside was his attempt, but unfortunately two wheels on the grass, and he just continued on his merry way. Hopefully Natafas hasn't picked up too much damage from the slight contact between the two cars.
Is this the biggest gap we've seen between these two?
I was going to say 1 second now Benny's managed to open up. I wonder if he started to put the pedal down and really kick on with a pit stop in mind. So let's see here, as they come up towards the final corner, if Benny is going to pit, he's going to stay hard left as early as possible, not leave it late like Marquette. To the left hand of Goddards, let's see. No, he opts to stay out, so does Spence Robb. So they're continuing on. They're going to start catching traffic, so that's Natafas in front and the number 33 Aston Martin. Here's a replay of that instant. Look, two wheels on the grass. Not going to be able to stop as well. Just skips across the front of the number 74 Nissan there. And it's left looping in the gravel. So a couple of cars now to clear for our race leaders. Banny needs to make his way past Natafas. And then the number 33 Aston Martin, the bright red car. It's the press towards the right hand of Coppice. As Danny de Swart actually is headed to pit lane, so we're starting to see now we can tick off the final few pit stoppers. Danny de Swart being one of those, just under 22 minutes to go here at Donington Park. Still waiting though on around about 10 drivers still to pit. So some leaving it very late in the day. Barney now, as much as he's opened up that 1.1 second gap over Spence Robb, he can almost wave goodbye to as he gets caught up in traffic at the Melbourne hairpin. Tapas gets out of the way as soon as he can. But still, his line into Goddards is compromised, and Spence Robb comes flying at the inside of Nissan. closed up that gap across the line. Separated by a few tenths now. Yes, it's down to 9 tenths of a second, so 2 tenths in a braking zone alone. Shows how quickly things can ebb and flow here in this GT3 competition. Get the feeling, Chris, it's all going to come down to these final few minutes.
It certainly is. And who's going to blink first with the pit stop? Who's your money on, Tim? Who do you think?
I personally think that Rhys Spencer-Robb, he won the race at Zandvoort last time by going as long as he possibly could, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him try and do that again. Obviously, he's going to be aware of that. He's going to know that his teammate won the race by going as far into the event as possible. So,
could be.
Think, yeah, sorry, carry on.
Sorry. It could be that it's both going on exactly the same lap, and I would say one's filling up slightly longer than the other. You understand what I mean? Putting a little bit more fuel in than the other one. If that's the case, that would be horrendous if you lose a race because you put an extra litre in because you miscalculated it and spent longer in the pits than the person you're battling with. But time will tell. Time will tell. We're down to the last 19 minutes now. And still, what, 8, 9 people haven't pitted yet?
It's very close indeed between these two. It stops to be Andreas Garlin heads to pit lane. He's P4 on the road at the moment, but he'll drop down the order. Wonder where the Mad Gertz are racing. Aston Martin will emerge. He's pitted inside this final 20 minutes of the race. Really, I guess, Chris, the thing is to do the opposite. You know, if Rhys Spencer-Robb sees that Banny comes to pit lane, stay out, try and do something different if the fuel permits, because at the moment it seems to be his best opportunity to make the place.
Yeah, but it's a bit dangerous on the last lap, isn't it? You've both got to pit. It's a mandatory stop, so you're just going to lose. You're going to get a penalty if you don't make the mandatory stop. So I'm struggling to try and predict when they are going to stop, but it is going to be as late as possible. Sorry.
It's definitely a poker face situation, isn't it, between the two of them? They're lapping so close together, lapping at a very similar pace. So we go, Matas Marquez looking for a way past Dan Lenson's number 31 Jaguar as they come down into the old hairpin, and Dennis Berkman nearly collects the back of the 720S under the brakes into the right-hander. They're side by side as they come up over the crest in towards Goddard's. Marquez dives to the inside. We've seen him do that before, but found a Ferrari in his way. This time there is space, but he can't make his way past the Jaguar. Lenson still to make his mandatory stop as well, so another car going as far into the race as he can. So come down in towards Redgate, the order stays the same, but not without a few tense moments through that final sector of the 4-kilometre lap here at Donington Park as they round Redgate and thunder down the hill through the trainer curves and into the old hairpin. Ride on board with Marquez through the old hairpin. Over the curves, he's got a fantastic run there. He's looking for a way past Lenson as they climb up towards McLean's. Maps there on the brakes through the corner, a real advantage to either car. They come up over the crest again into Coppice. Closing up slightly on the brakes as Marquez. Taking the exit of the corner as Lenson gets a bit of a slide on actually. Marquez is able to really close up and stay in the slipstream. As they come up towards the S's, they're going to be side by side, but I doubt Marquez has enough of an overlap. He's certainly going to give it a good go the long way around. He's going to open the door though for Dennis Berkman. He's now trying to look for the gap, look for the space. Could almost be 3 wide on the run down into the hairpin. Marquez dives to the inside, sends it late on the brakes but can't get the job done. Berkman can't get past Lenson as well. And in all of that, Seb Spenkling slides on through in the McLaren. He's a lap ahead and the other drivers will be getting a blue flag. Will be required to get out of the way as Berkman has actually got the job done on Marquez in the braking zone for Goddard. I wonder if there was a bit of an incident there into the final corner As Workman slows up on the exit, but Marquez is unable to get alongside and get the position back from the troop before Aston Martin. So come down into Redgate and fly off onto the start of another lap. But the top 4 yet to pit. Sem Spenkling was just disappearing out of shot. McLaren, bluey-green coloured car. Not sure what colour it is, but it's blue in some lights, green in others, and there's certainly some gold on it. It's the last of the cars not to pit. Sorry, in that top 4. Still wait for our race leaders to make the mandatory visit. Down pit road is contact there from Workman. He taps the rear of the Jaguar. Lenson sent spinning off into the gravel on the exit of Coppice. And with 15 minutes to go, Lenson's race is undone entirely there. He's climbed up the order, still yet to make his stop, but unfortunately now, looks like any strategy card he has to play has been taken out of his hands with that incident there. Now Matas Marquez looking for a way past. Dennis Bergman into the Melbourne hairpin, sends it lay up the inside. Looks to have got the job done as they come up towards Goddard, so he's able to close the door on the run into the left-handed hairpin. Number 20 McLaren has made the pass on the Aston Martin. There we go. This is a replay. Klaas Vester on his out lap actually. He's just come out of pit lane down towards the old hairpin. Oh, and another incident, Chris, at the corner at the bottom of the hill there. Cold tyres, tyres that aren't quite up to temperature yet. That was a very confusing one there under the brakes.
Yeah, but has he changed the tyres? If he's only just come out of the pits, it's hard for us to tell, isn't it, whether he changed tyres without knowing how long he was actually in the pits. But that's the 3rd person we've seen go off there, and the 3rd different direction they've been spat out in. And we're hearing that Klaas didn't change tyres. He was only stationary for 17 seconds, so it was
lost plenty of time by the sounds of it in pit lane, and then another error out on track. I wonder if the tyres just cooled or lost pressure in being stationary or having to reverse and lose that time in pit lane, and whether that was just enough to give him a helping hand in that mistake. In the meanwhile, Andreas Garlin had picked up a drive-through penalty whilst all that was happening, and he served it immediately. It seems to have worked to his favour, because although he's lost a position, I think, to Dimitri de Groot in the 114 at Bentley, he hasn't actually dropped much further down the order. I think it's only that one position he's lost in coming down pit lane. Actually, no, looking at my just hopping back through the timings, he actually hasn't lost a spot at all. So very clever driving from Garlin to serve that penalty as soon as he was handed it. Here he is, the number 188 Mad Goetze Racing Aston Martin. Actually, he has lost that. Danny de Swoort has got through in the 57 Mercedes, the CBSR car, up to P6. He's got it in his sights. Be looking to make a way back through. Under 12.5 minutes here to go at Donington Park. Still Clive Bainey leads the way from Rhys Spence-Rob in the number 48 Aston Martin. They've got a 7.1 second lead over Nard Cox and Sem Spenkling. The top 4 all still need to come down pit lane and serve their stops. They don't need to take tyres, but they do need to take fuel of whatever volume they choose. As Garlin is really close to the back of Danny de Swoort.
That's as close as you want to get into it. That's as close as you want somebody to get you around that corner.
I say as close as you can get without really making contact and spinning, but he seems to have had a few unlucky incidents throughout this season, and Andreas has really deserved better results than he's been able to get so far in this GT3 championship as they head up the hill in towards McLean's. He's started inside the top 10 every race so far, and only twice has he finished inside at that, coming at Kyalami and at Paul Ricard. He's often had to enact some sort of recovery drive throughout the race. Best finish of P4 coming at Kyalami. There we saw the Aston Martin with the pink and black car drop down the order and climb his way back up our timing screens across the 1 hour and 15 minutes. So here is Rhys Spence-Rob, closest he's been in a little while now as they head up towards the S's. This Aston Martin is closed in underneath the rear wing of the McLaren as a teammate, but at the moment that all goes out the window when you're battling for a race victory. We're nearing the final 10 minutes of this 75-minute race. Still yet to make their stop, still yet to play the strategy, and yet to see it play out in front of us here. I wonder if Spence Robb is going to go as long as he can. I would think he's going to try and use the strategy that saw him win at Zandvoort. He's running out of time to either make the move on track or come and make that pit stop. Dave Jr. though sets the fastest lap of the race, and he's that red and black Lamborghini that's tailing on to the leading duo, as actually Spence Robb runs wide through Redgate, 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 4 wheels over into the grass in the exit of the first corner. That's costing time in his attempts to take the race lead off Bainey, as Andreas Garland still as close as ever to the Mercedes of this sport as they come through Coppice, and we're inside the final 10 minutes of this race, and Chris, we still don't really know who's going to win this one. If anything's the season been anything to go by so far, it will be decided in the final 10 seconds.
It will. Keep saying it. When are they going to pit? When? We just don't know it. I'd have panicked by now and I'd have gone in. In all honesty, I'd have probably changed tyres and brakes. Basically, I'd have just made a lot of mistakes. Had a cup of tea, read the newspaper, and then yeah, and then still come out on the lead for the next race.
Excellent strategy call. I do enjoy the cup of tea part of it very much so. As still, yeah, we're waiting on this stop. Another yellow flag actually towards the bottom of the Craner curves. That was De Kaiser, the number 15 Lexus, off to the into the vast meadow there on the inside of the Craner curves. Spence Robbers pushed on, despite running wide on the exit of Redgate, doesn't make that mistake again. They are still together on track, this leading duo. And a lap on the majority of the field. Dave Jr. behind is in P10, but a lap down. Plenty of, I believe actually all the way up to P5 is potentially a lap down on the race leaders. As this top 4 are yet to pit, 3 McLarens and an Aston Martin yet to come down pit road and go to a replay of Damien De Kaiser. This is the instant here. He's looking for a way past the Ferrari there. I think that's it's a Medina as they come down the hill and into the right-hander, and there's side-to-side contact, and that loops the Lexus round, and he's going backwards off into the grass there.
You don't want to be doing that to a steward.
No, not at all. Going and punching the policeman is definitely not a good idea in the slightest.
So I got it right, there'll be somebody off there. I just got it 45 laps too late.
Better late than never, Chris. Better late than never.
I'm going to put my lottery ticket on for 4 weeks' time now.
Good stuff. Well, as Garland heads down the hill into the old hairpin, in the number 188. Aston Martin still can't make that pass on Danny de Swart. If anything, he's started to drop off the back of the Mercedes into this final 7 minutes. Right, Bailey still leads the way though. 0.8 of a second over Spence Robb. Then it's Marty Cox and Seb Spenkling. They're nearly 7 seconds back. This is a real fight. This is Dennis Workman, Patrick Treffers and Cohen Scepter all together on the road. All had varying different races here. They've all had events that have seen them climb up the order, drop down, or stay somewhere in between. Workman is certainly a driver that seems to have yo-yoed throughout the order. It's continuing though to hold on to P13. It's this final 6.5 minutes. Skipping across the grass though, and that's certainly using up one of his 9 lives there by cutting across the grass on the exit of the old hairpin. You've seen how easily it can bite back and send cars spinning in different kinds of directions. Still, the top 4 yet to pit, still waiting for their strategies to play out. I really do wonder if they're going to be able to go right up until the last lap. Certainly would think that's their plan, as they've start-finish once again. So another lap in the books as we head into this final 6 minutes. Lap times around just below the 1:30 mark, around 86 seconds, 87 seconds or so. Really, they're coming into the final 3 or 4 laps of this race. So the clock is ticking. Not that it hasn't been for the last 75 minutes, but it really is ticking loud now. Treffers is all over the back of Dennis Workman as they cross the line.
It's the top 4 as well, haven't it? Nobody in the top 4 has pitted yet.
All matching each other, I reckon. They're all waiting to see who does what, and they're going to continue waiting at this rate. We're now into the final 5 minutes of the race. They've gone a full hour and 10 minutes without pitting. The tyres are just starting to scream a little louder, or the fuel tank just that little bit more empty than they were hoping. Might force a change. Number 33 Aston Martin, I believe, has spun up ahead, the bright red car. Will be off to the inside. Camera pans round. Back on the track, or back to pit lane. Proposes back to the pit lane, so the race has unfortunately ended within sight of the checkered flag. Leaders have gone past start-finish again. He'll certainly be running out now as they head into this final 5 minutes. Dennis Workman defends the inside, and Treffers dives to the outside without coming close to the rear end of that Aston Martin. Into the Melbourne hairpin towards Goddard's.
Who's hoping to pick up the pieces if anything does happen. Right behind them.
Scepter's there waiting in the wings, and now on the exit of Goddard's, Dennis Workman makes a slight error. That's allowed Treffers alongside. They are side by side in towards Redgate. Treffers on the outside, Workman on the inside. It's going to be a brave and daring move to go the long way around, but Treffers is giving it a go. They are still side by side, and now behind. Tim Krul's looked for a way past Cohen Scepter. They're almost 2 by 2. Coming down, the crane occurs, but the long way around, Treffers gets the job done. As they come into the old hairpin, Dennis Workman's lost a place. And it's now going to be under fire from Tim Krul, who's had a fantastic run through the opening sequence of corners. Not only get past Cohen Scepter, but close up on the Aston Martin. Let's here are your race leaders. Let's see. Into the final corner. 3 minutes to go. Chris Hill's thinking that they're going to come to pit lane this time. Let's see. Yes, they both do. Bowney and Spence Robb follow each other down pit lane. Now it's going to be a case of who can make the better stop and who needs to take more fuel. They're going to stop in their spots here in pit lane. Reece Spence Robb stopped first, so he should get rolling first, but Bainey might just be able to do something different. Spence Robb gets rolling. He took the shortest splash and dash, and he's managed to jump Clyde Bainey in pit lane. Number 48 takes the lead, not on the racetrack, but it's in pit road as they come down towards the pit out, and the number 48 has snatched the lead from the number 85 as Nard Cox goes around again. Sem Spenkling has come to pit lane as well. The number 1 heads back out on track. Wow, it happened in pit lane, Chris. We were looking forward to a pass on the track, but it's not surprising considering the strategy they were both running.
I think I've got something else right tonight. That's twice. That doesn't happen that often. I actually get something right, let alone twice. But yeah, Nard's gone round again. He's obviously got to pit on this lap now. He's the current leader of the race, but only because he hasn't pitted yet. But yeah, the battle of the pit crew, shall we say, of the virtual pit crew.
Let's see where he comes out. So he's coming up towards the final corner. We're expecting that he's going to come down pit lane. Into the left-hander he comes. 1 minute 31 on the clock. He's got to pit, and he does so. He stays over to the left-hand side. Now, the number 85, I was just about to say, here we go, 48 and 85 together on the road. They're coming into the Melbourne hairpin. There are a couple of corners behind. Let's see if Nard Cox is able to produce some magic and his pit crew are able to do something spectacular and get the McLaren out in front. It looks like it's going to be close, but he might just fall in behind the leader Duet. A drop off the jacks, and he's slow to pull away there. Unfortunately, jumped down the pit lane as well was added to it. So try as he might to do something different and go that lap longer, it hasn't been effective. And we are now on the final lap of the race with 48 seconds on the clock, and Spence Rob has done it once again. In the final minutes, he's managed to pull out some strategy magic. In this case, some pit lane performance, and he's jumped his teammate Clyde Bainey in the stop. Could be on the road. Sorry, he's set now for back-to-back race victories. Zandvoort and here at Donington Park. So excited to hear what he has to say post-race. He's got a few corners still to go, still to navigate. He can't afford a mistake here. The margins are tight between him and his teammate. The margins are even tighter on the track sides. One wheel into the grass, we've seen. That can cause you to go off and into the barrier. Shut us down on the garage early, flying through the S's for the final time, slowing up his Spence Rob over to the right-hand side. And he's let Clyde Bainey go through on the run down into the Melbourne hairpin. We'll have to find out what happened there. Clyde Bainey through. He's taken the lead into the hairpin as they come up towards Goddard's and into the left-hand. We've had a change for the lead in the final two corners. Round the final corner, onto the pit straight. Clyde Bainey, Odyssey Racing's number 85 McLaren, is going to cross the line to win. Spence Rob finishes in second place, despite having the lead on that final lap and taking the lead through pit stop genius there as Nard Cox takes the final step on the podium. Then it's Dimitri de Knoit's number 114. Bentley, he's going to cross the line in P4 after a very strong race indeed. As we're now waiting on Sem Spenkling, he comes around the final corner. Goddard's to cross the line and take P5. That is a best finish from Dimitri in the P4 spot. His previous best. P6 at Laguna Seca, the opening round of the season. Then it's Danny de Swart, who is in P6. He's going to cross the line in a couple of seconds, so he's just ahead of Andreas Garland, the number 188 Aston Martin. And it's Mike Abramhoses and McLaren who's going to take P8 ahead of Tim Niebauer in the 622 Mercedes. Then it's Dave Jr. with the fastest lap of the race, going to cross the line in P10 with Klaas Vester, Mattis Marquez, your top 11, Patrick Treffers, Tim Krul, Cohen Scepter, Dennis Verkman, Joris Everleens, Yannick Valenduk, Johan Planas, Jitse Medema, your top 20 with Ben Simmers, Dan Lenson and Evan Tafas, your top 23. Chris, what a crescendo to the race there. It would look like the Spence Rob pulled something out of the bag, but a change of position on the in the final sector. Interesting one, that.
I wonder if that's something to do with the championship to bring Clyde back up the points. I'm not sure where they are in the championship, in all honesty. But I wonder if it's just a tactical to try and get him further up the point system.
Well, regardless, it was very good teamsmanship from Spence Rob to give up the race lead there. I wonder if there was potentially an issue in the pit stop that saw Clyde lose the lead, but they did swap positions in pit lane and then swapped again in that final lap of the race, and Spence Rob handed his teammate the victory there. He didn't want to take that second consecutive win. They might have had an agreement, they might have had some sort of conversation going on during the race to say that, you know, Clyde's led the majority of the event. You know, whatever happens in the pit stops, he'll win the race. We have seen that in the real world and in the virtual world as well, playing the team orders game. Certainly a shock to you and I, though, Chris.
It certainly was. I'm hoping they come and join us for an interview where we can find out.
We're just waiting for a couple of the drivers to join us in the broadcasting room. Well, here is one of them, Spence Rob. Race winner last time out at Zandvoort by putting some strategy plays by pitting right at the end. We see the same here at Donington Park. You pit right at the end of the race. That's not without following your teammate into the pit lane. You came out ahead of him, and then you swapped back on the final lap. What happened there?
I just couldn't steal the win. It just felt wrong. I know, like, obviously Clay, I've got so much respect for, and to be honest, it was his race. I wouldn't have been able to get past anyway, and to snatch it like that in a pit stop. I would always said if it was anyone else, fair enough, but not my teammate. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Clay's help on setups and everything like that. So yeah, I couldn't do it physically.
Well, very it's massive sportsmanship from you to do that. But besides that exchange then in the final laps, I mean, what a close race it was between the pair of you, separated by a second or less throughout the entire race. And to go from race win at Zandvoort to P2 here at Donington Park, you must be pleased with how things went.
Yeah, just pace is amazing at the moment. It seems I've just come on leaps and bounds since the start of the season, and yeah, it's just really, really good to see. And yeah, we said we wanted to win it against each other on the track, and I could have had the pace today. I hit a couple of curbs a bit wrong, and the pressure started to drop, and when that happens, it's difficult to get them back. So I was a little bit slow because of that, but yeah, it was just a case of me and Clay trying to pull away at the front and just try and gap the whole field, and that's what we wanted to do from the start, really.
I think you've just made Chris Hill a very happy man by giving him the third thing he's got right this evening. But speaking of tyres, how was it managing them across the race? Because you went obviously the entire distance without changing the set, and like you say, the curb strikes around Donington Park seem to affect pressures quite severely.
Yeah, it's like that on all these British tracks, and they are difficult on the tyres, especially those curbs. But I just tried to save them at the start. Me and Clay were trying to save them as much as we could. We were constantly communicating with each other to try and manage the gap, but also try and save the tyres and just not slide the cars. So that was a big key, and I think since the update, it seems that the Aston has got a little bit better on the tyres. I know the last couple of races I was struggling, especially at the likes of Paul Ricard and places like that. I had to pit. I wouldn't have been able to run this strategy. So yeah, it's just a case of just trying to really keep the tyres as best as they could for the start of the race, just in case anything did happen, but keep trying to manage that gap as well.
Well, congratulations on P2, back-to-back podiums in the GT3 Championship. Reece, Spence, Rob, look forward to seeing you race next time out.
Brilliant. Cheers, Chris. Cheers, Chris. Cheers, Chris and Tim.
Chris and
I'll
Tim.
take it. Thank you.
Cheers, Chris. Take it easy.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. And we'll go over to our race winner, Clyde Bainey. Clyde, an exciting race for you, battling hard at the start. Then you were almost in this time trial poker face-off between you and your teammate, and then it all seemed to come to a rousing crescendo at the end. But nonetheless, a race victory to your name.
Yeah, first of all, I need to thank Chris to just give up that position and let me have the win, even though he's fighting for the championship. You know, that's just massive. He might not have won the race today, but he's a winner in general. And now I'll try to do my best and repay the favor to make sure that he wins the title. But yeah, other than that, it was being on the one hand, it was being on massive pressure, as Reece was just 1 second behind me for the entire race. But on the other hand, I knew, okay, he's not going to try something silly with me. So as long as I don't make any big mistakes, I should be able to just keep ahead, especially as it's quite difficult to overtake in Donington. And then, yeah, managing the tires, yeah, that was tough in the beginning, making sure not to hit any curb, especially with the wear going on. I got quite a bit of understeer, I feel, towards the stint. But to be fair, I mean, Reece behind me was struggling, getting 24 PSI pressure, so relatively to that, it was all right.
I think we can hear it in your voice, but you must be very happy to take this win. You know, not only is it, you know, been a bit of an up and down season so far. You've had a DNF finishes outside the top 10. You've had the strong qualifying at Zandvoort, but then the race didn't quite go your way. Then factor in just how close this field is. You must be very pleased to be standing on the top step of the virtual podium this evening.
Yeah, definitely. Especially as it was all tight. You could see in quali that we had the top 4 within half a tenth. Like, small margins really matter here, and just to come away with this win, yeah, that makes me very proud.
Do you think you found anything in the setup for the McLaren? Do you think you found anything, you know, as the season's progressed that's helped you build to this race victory, or do you think it was just everything seemed to come together tonight?
I think so. Honestly, in practice I was struggling with this setup quite a bit. I think on average I was 4 or 5 tenths slower than Reece, so I don't know. Today it seemed like the grip was there and the setup all of a sudden worked, where before I didn't. And especially with the new update, it's going to be a guessing game at each track how the setup is going to be.
Well, congratulations nonetheless, Clyde Bainey. Race victor here at Donington Park. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Chris, great to hear from from Clyde and Reece there. I'm getting the Chris's confused as well. Everyone's Chris at the moment. But great to hear that not only were they battling hard, great sportsmanship and teammates between the pair of them, but I think more importantly for you, third thing right, you do affect the tyres quite a lot by using the curbs here at Donington Park.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I'm 3 things right in one night. That's never ever happened. So yeah, it was fantastic to watch, and congratulations to the both of you. Excellent piece of sportsmanship there, Reese, and it was exciting to watch, and then to see who would win in the pit stop battle. I've got a suspicion that one of you told the other that to use a little bit more fuel than they should have done, but you know, that's just speculation, in all honesty. But congratulations, guys.
Thanks, man. Cheers, and thanks for organising all of this.
Not a problem. Not a problem. It's something I enjoy, and the admin team are quite pleased to put these events on. Sorry to digress slightly, but how did you both finish in the 24-hour?
We retired.
So you didn't. So that was a really bad question to ask. I do.
Yeah, our teammate basically had a disconnect due to the storms, and we couldn't find our first driver in time. So by the time we would have gotten back, we would have probably been like 10-15 laps down.
Right. Okay. Well, up to that point, did you enjoy the event?
Definitely.
I'm just canvassing now.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Fantastic up until that point.
Brilliant.
Change of fortunes tonight, which is always nice, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I'd also like to mention, I also want to dedicate this win for James as well. I mean, he would have taken part in this race and would have been in the top 3 if it wasn't for a family emergency last minute. So, yeah, hoping all goes well for him. And, also thanks to Odyssey.
Absolutely. Well said indeed. And we also pass on our thoughts to James with that as well. Well, let's bring the broadcast to a close there. Thanks, Chris Hill, for joining me in the commentary box. Thanks for Clive Bainey and Reece Spence Rob for joining us post-race to explain just what happened here at Donington Park. It was a rather exciting crescendo after 75 minutes of nose-to-tail action. But once again, the Simsport Racing International GT3 season throws up a spellbinding race. Thank you very much all for tuning in and for watching. I look forward to seeing you all in the YouTube chats and beyond next time. And of course, remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up to date with all the racing going on here at Simsport Racing International. And until then, I'll see you then. Bye.